I'll take board games I've never f***ing heard of for 1,000, Alex. This is Mario Barbati's Dungeon Venture, a fantasy board game published by Giochi Uniti. For 2 to 5 players, ages 8 and up, a typical game may take about 60 minutes. And there is a barcode. That's right. I'm Ash, this is HashQuest, and the reason this video exists right now is because my patrons voted on which game I should unbox next out of a list of games that I deemed very obscure. So I've been hanging on to this one for a minute. You stand before Velkan the White, the world's most powerful archmage who speaks. You have been chosen to defend the weak and fight the darkness as the defenders of the light. Velkan whispers ancient and forgotten words. Do you remember when you could go to the store and buy Sobe? Sobe, it was short for South Beach. It was a really good juice brand. It wasn't really like juice all the time, though. Sometimes it was just flavored water. It was really good, but it was really sweet. Sometimes you can find them in the stores. Hey, does anybody remember Crystal Pepsi? When suddenly your body, it has been covered by multiple blue flames. Do you have the wits and courage to confront the servants of evil? Battle your way through 10 terrifying adventures and destroy the plans of the Evil Keeper. So you guys remember when I unboxed Dragonfire? This gives off Dragonfire for adults vibes. Anyway, we've got a copyright from 01games.com, the publisher, from Giochi.it, and the design from enigma.it. This is just in case anybody wants to try to track this down in case they can't find it. And here we go. There's nothing under the lid. That honor is reserved for the greatest dungeon crawler of all time. We have the rules, we have the adventures, we have 4 hero boards, and we have our Dungeon Master's screen. This is the Evil Keeper's screen, actually. And you know what? Just the effort to put a screen in here at all, I really appreciate. The screen, for an asymmetrical game like this, the screen is just always appreciated. Even if you don't end up using it, it's appreciated to have it as an option. Hero boards are always very useful. This game's protagonists are 4. Storm the Barbarian. The others call you She-Devil with a Sword. You are a powerful human warrior charging wildly into combat to deal out lethal amounts of damage. I wonder who she's based on. Snick the Thief, Vardok the Fighter, and Narania the Wizard. The board features the character art, name, and flavor text. The spells cast, the cards here cannot exceed your total mana dice. Hit points, place a counter skull for each hit point you suffered. Equipment, cards here cannot have the same body part. And then you've got your hero's stats. So Storm, for example, on attack can roll 3 blue dice, 1 green. On defense, rolls 2 green. For mana, rolls 1 green. Can move 6 spaces. These are orthogonal, not diagonal spaces, and total hit points. Now these dice that they're able to roll, they have different numbers of successes on them. We'll actually just go ahead and look at the dice. Boy, everything is just covered in the Dungeon Venture branding. Gotta respect the grind. We've got tiles. We'll look at the tiles here in just a moment. We've got maps. We'll look at the maps here in just a moment. Check out you can put anything you want on the opposite side, and you choose to put the graphic, not more dungeon details. It's okay. It's all right. We have cards. We have a deck of large cards and a deck of small cards packaged up. And we have stands, because this is a game with no miniatures. It has standees. And we have the dice. So these dice are multi-purpose, 16 millimeter acrylic dice. The reds have 4 successes and 2 misses. If you roll, that's a success. There's only 1 success per success face. And that's true of all the colors of the dice. The green have 2 successes and 4 failures, and the blue have 3 successes and 3 failures. So obviously, the more dice you're able to roll, the higher a chance of success you'll have. But if you can roll blue dice, that's better than green. And if you roll red, that's better than blue or green. Combat in this game is handled as such. You'll roll your dice. We'll say that you roll 3 in this example. The enemy rolls their dice. We'll say 3 just to simplify things. And after you roll, you cancel out whatever successes there are, and whatever's left, if the attacker has 1 more success, that's a hit point that will be lost on the enemy's side. Counter to this, if your defender rolls more successes, nothing happens. They're just still holding up their shield. That's the combat in a nutshell. Some folks may complain that I complain about this, but there is so much space in this box. There was no reason for it to be this tall. There's the promise of content when all the content that's in this box is taken up by only this amount of square inchage. Whatever, we'll put that to the side and we'll continue our presentation. This is pretty much it. This is everything you get in this box. Here are our standees. This game does include 2D furniture, so furniture tiles. We've got skull tiles to represent the wounds that are inflicted. We've got door tiles, open and closed, so the heroes will be able to traverse through the dungeons. The doors indicate how the sections of dungeons are linked, and the closed doors are there to distinguish between whether or not the heroes can see into the rooms. A la HeroQuest rules, we have some trap tiles and some fallen rock tiles as well. Our enemy standees here. We've got numbers on each, and the numbers are only so that the evil keeper can keep track of which monster has moved and whatnot. They're not like hit points or anything. This is Skeleton Warrior number 7, number 8, number 9, and so on. We've got a lot of some enemy types, like the kobolds here. There's 12 of them, which I think is really cool. Now, there's actually more than that. It's like lifting this up, I can see that there's a 16 on this kobold's tile, so there's actually 16 kobolds. So now it's time to just pop every single tile out. I'll actually do it from the other side, and yes, I'll go ahead and take these 1-inch standard tiles and see if I can't put them onto a HeroQuest standard map. If they're a true inch, there will be scale creep, because I think 21 HeroQuest tiles are like 30 seconds of an inch, or there's like 3/64ths of a difference. Just a keen reminder of the core audience that watches this channel whenever I unbox any game at all, and they're like, but can it HeroQuest? And I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot. How could I forget? I'm the Can It HeroQuest person. It's like my whole shtick. This channel wouldn't exist if I wasn't asking, can it HeroQuest? You know that when that started, I was really trying to channel the Will It Blend guy. Does anybody remember Will It Blend? Does anybody? No? Is that a forgotten era of the internet? I know there's a lot of other people out there around my age, but it doesn't seem like they were quite as glued to the computer monitor as I was. Does anybody remember Kelly? Like, let's get some shoes, Kelly? Anybody on Newgrounds? You know what? I really like the way that these tile sheets are laid out. They're like kind of boring, but kind of predictable the way they're laid out. This is like the least interesting thing to even comment about at all. But they all follow a standard. They all follow a design convention wherein there are exactly 16 characters, and then the rest of it is tiles. There are skulls right here in the same spot. There are doors in the same spot. This had to have been very, very thoughtfully considered. I will say, they are using more tile square inchage. How do I put this? There's more surface area left over after you punch out all the tiles than I think is necessary. Like, they could have either used smaller sheets, or they could have put more tiles in here. Could have been a good money saving or resource saving measure. Got my lost maps here, and yeah, the pit trap does not quite follow. Well, not the edge of the board. There we go. Yeah, pit trap fits nicely there. It's just 2 by 2, so even if there was tile creep, you're not going to notice it. Tile fits perfect in Ian Schofield's beautiful dungeon map set as well, so no reason at all why it wouldn't fit on a typical HeroQuest board. These doors, however, are ridiculously oversized. They are huge. Got some interesting card art on the backs here. Okay, looks like we've got 2 decks. We have 2 decks of cards, basically. You know what? That's a first. That's a first for me. That's the small cards. We've got large cards as well. You know, I just want to be clear. I'm not knocking the Standees games. They really aren't my preference. They really aren't my cup of tea. For whatever reason, the Standees just are difficult for me to get immersed in because I didn't play with these kinds of materials when I was a kid. My brother and I played with toys. We used small figurines, sometimes from McDonald's, to represent different characters in the games that we played. All right, we have a deck of, there's 1 orb on each one of these. And then there's a triangle on these. We'll explore what that means. I have not looked up to see. And then we have enemies. There's 5 different enemies in the game. The orc, boy, I never would have actually guessed that was an orc. That's like the singer of a 90s industrial band. All the monsters, of course, have the same stats where they've had mana, attack, defense, and their movement. The skeleton, the ogre. The ogres in this game are pretty terrifying. The kobold, and the zombie. Also, if you wanted to play this, but you didn't want to play with the Standees, you could totally proxy these, but I mean, you're going to have to get a bunch of the same kind of enemy for some of these, like 16 kobolds. That's no small feat. They have small feet, but it's no small feat to... Never mind. Okay, so in this deck of guys' faces on the back of the card, we have spells. Magic missile. Make an attack roll of 3 blue dice plus your mana dice on any visible foe. Got a few of those. We have gaseous form. On your next move, you may pass through or over enemies, furniture traps, and closed doors. Telekinesis, fire rays, pass wall, potion of cure. This is an expendable. So the consumables are called expendables in this. And these are for the bad guy because this says heal 2 skulls on the boss. Heal 3 skulls the boss. Potion of memory, regain 1 spell of your choosing from your discard deck. Oh, but then there's potions of heroism. This one's just blank. All right, the cards with just like the blank backing. Okay, we're back to spells. Invisibility, shield, pass wall, minor heal, heals your hero or an ally in the same area for skull. For 1 wound, basically. All right, so this is the hero's deck. The hero's stuff is in this deck. It has the same backs, but there's expendables. There's gold, 1 gold. Keep it if you're playing a campaign, otherwise discard it. That's because this game has 10 scenarios, and each scenario can be played standalone without any sort of connection to the other scenarios. You could just sit down and play a quick game, choose a quest, and go. But if you're playing the campaign, then you can go ahead and keep the gold and carry your characters throughout each quest and play them all in whatever order. Bow, only usable by the fighter, the thief, and the wizard. Oh, that's interesting. They're giving limitations to the barbarian of it. That's interesting. Even the wizard can use the bow, but not the barbarian. Magic shield, only usable by the fighter and the barbarian. Magic staff, only usable by wizard. 2 more blank cards. Those are cracking me up. Come on, guys. Manufacturer's like, you got space for 2 more, and they're like, just keep it. Really? You could duplicate one of the ones you already have? Nah, just keep them blank. Maybe the player can draw their own stuff on there, you know? We've got red cards. These are events in which the evil keeper can cause the heroes to miss their attacks. A random encounter, place 2 orcs in a single area. 2 skeletons, zombies, kobolds. Event cards that can be played on the boss, and every one of these dungeons is going to have a boss. The point of this game is to brave the dungeon and find and destroy the boss. So, reinforcements, 1-shot trap, rage, not dead yet. That's awesome. And then we've got triangle cards here. These are, initiative. These are initiative cards. That's what these are. So all of the participants of a particular combat, you're going to take your initiative card, give it to the evil keeper. He's going to shuffle the initiative cards. And in that battle, whatever card is drawn, that character is going to go first. In this case, it's the boss. In this case, it's the boss. In this case, it's the boss. In this case, it's the kobold, ogre, skeleton, zombie, orc, storm the barbarian, Narania the wizard, Valdak the fighter, Snake the thief. All right, that's all the cards. Let's take a look at the map tiles now. These are arranged in a very particular way. It's going to seem kind of bland, maybe boring, but there is a point to how these are arranged. This is the dungeon entrance room. You've got 4 branching paths plus the stairway that begins the quest. You've also got a room that you can actually stop and do battle in. And look, they couldn't help themselves. The Dungeon Venture V right here in the middle of the dungeon. Boy, the evil keeper really knows how to brand. Okay, this is the single room tile. This is the 2-room tile. This is the 3-room tile. And this is the 4-room tile. Got it? Good. This is the single room tile with pillars. Oftentimes this will be used for climactic encounters such as with bosses. And of course, these can be arranged as such. And then your doors can be, wherever major doors are accepted at better stores near you, all according to what is set up in the Adventures book. We'll take a look at the Adventures in just a second, but with renewed intelligence and wisdom about this game, we can take a look at the Dungeon Master or Evil Keeper screen, and we can see that the symbols here, which will help you build your maps, represent specific things. Like this is supposed to be a shrine, which is a good thing because I never would have known that that was a shrine if this hadn't told me. That's not sarcasm. That looks nothing like a shrine, but obviously it's a shrine once again to the brand. We have chests, which are that's kind of difficult to see a chest when I look at that image. Maybe it's just me. A bookcase, which I honestly thought was like a kitchen countertop because I thought these were rolling pins, but they're scrolls. Doors, opened, closed, and secret. Tables, tombs, and traps. Concealed pit. If a hero ends his move in a trapped area, he suffers an attack. Firing darts, falling blocks. And then the actions. There's quite a few actions in this game. You can open a door, close a door. You can actually close doors in this game. You can loot an adjacent chest. You can attack foes that occupy adjacent squares, not diagonally. You can give one card to another player in the same area. They don't have to be adjacent to you. You can just give them to them. You can stop and reorganize. Any hero may call this special action, but only if there are no monsters on the board and only if all players agree to it. Pick up, drop down an essence. Any hero can pick up an essence counter or drop it at a shrine. Play an equipment card, play an event card, and the faces here will show you who gets to play this card, whether it's a hero, a monster, or the evil keeper. They could have made these a little bit bigger or better visibility in some way, any way at all. Play a spell card, play an expendable card, move again. A hero or monster can move again as many spaces as he has move points. Pick up items, search, rest or resurrect, and swap position. You can actually swap position with an adjacent hero as an action. That's pretty cool. The resurrection bit, we'll get into that. We're going to peek at the rules first. The rulebook suggests that your first game is Gronk's Lair. We have our movement examples here. You're not allowed to pass over furniture. You can't end your movement over furniture. You can't move diagonally. You can't end your movement over an ally. You can't pass over enemies. You can pass over allies. Storm can attack the adjacent enemies here, but not the diagonally adjacent ones. Yeah. By the way, anytime a hero uses a shrine for resting, not resurrecting, each time a hero is killed, or each time a chest is looted, the evil keeper will be able to gain an event card. Examples of visibility. Under most circumstances, heroes do not leave the game if they are killed. Things get a little bit interesting here with the concept of character death. That's why we have a ghostly token as well as the regular hero token. Once a hero dies in battle, an essence counter replaces his miniature. This essence moves at the same rate as the hero it represents, but cannot take any actions other than resurrect. Thus, he can't choose the move again action. The hero's essence can pass freely through a closed door, over enemies, miniatures, furnitures, and traps, cannot pass through walls, not through closed doors leading to unexplored areas. Another hero, if willing, can carry the essence, using the actions pick up essence and drop essence. When a hero's essence is adjacent to a shrine, he can resurrect himself and must replace his essence counter with his hero miniature. So the concept here is kind of like World of Warcraft. If you die, you resurrect in a spot, you've got to run all the way back to a graveyard from the spot where you died. Then you'll start up in that area and you can freely warp around or do whatever it is you were allowed to do or had the ability to do before death. If a hero is in essence form when a boss activates, his essence snuffs out instantly. Death is permanent, you leave the game. If this occurs, other heroes can use the pick up items action to collect your equipment. Yeah, so if a hero dies while a boss is on the board, your death is permanent and you leave the game. Your death, not the character. As soon as the boss appears and if you die, your death is permanent. That's not in the rulebook, but I think its rules is intended. I gotta read this part because it cracks me up. This is campaign mode. When a quest is finished in a standard game, return all the equipment cards, expendable cards, spell cards to the treasure deck before beginning a new game. However, players can also choose to play the game in campaign mode, a style of play that should usually last 2 or 3 quests in a row. Don't tell me how long to quest. If desired, players may undertake 4 or more quests in a row. At the end of each quest, provided at least one of the heroes survives, Velkin the White summons the surviving heroes and the cousins of any permanently dead heroes. And here is the cousin rule. Should a hero die permanently during campaign mode, he can return to the game at the start of the next quest as his cousin. However, heroes who picked up the permanently slain hero's equipment can choose to keep it, or give some or all of it back to the cousin. The Archmage Velkin takes the treasure they collected, but allows them to keep all the gold they found along with 1 equipment card per hero. Heroes may only select their single equipment card from any equipment they found during their last quest. If our 4 heroes found less than 4 equipment cards, 1 or more players are going to go without any equipment card during the start of the next quest. After players have chosen their equipment cards, all remaining equipment cards return to the treasure deck. The heroes can then visit the local store and buy any expendables and spells they want by spending the gold they found. Expendable gold cards return to the deck before the next quest to record any unspent gold on a piece of paper. And then the Evil Keeper will take event cards for what the players start with for quest number 2. Another weird thing to complain about, but these plastic stands are of very questionable quality. I know this is from 2012. By the way, this game is from 2012, but that's very questionable quality stands. Ash, you're questioning the quality of the stands? The stands that only exist to keep your standees up? Pathetic. Unsubscribing. They work. They do their job. They work pretty well. These guys are easy to grab and move around the board. Oh, look. I can blow them away. Guess a strong enough gust of wind could blow down 3D miniatures as well. Here's the adventure sheet. Get out of the way. The adventures book. It's a short book. There are 11 adventures in here. Each page is an adventure. We get the map assembly. Boy, you couldn't have zoomed in at all. I get that you're keeping a standard of size, but sorry. So I'm complaining just a little bit, maybe too much for a typical Ash Quest video. But you couldn't have zoomed in at all. Anyways, we've got 2 tiles here, a host of doors, enemy tokens laid down, furniture bits. We have the flavor text. The title of this quest is called Gronk's Lair. This is the one they recommend you play first, so it's adequately placed at the beginning of the book. Gronk is dangerously hungry, ogre terrorizing a nearby elf village for snacks, namely the tasty elves themselves. You must put an end to his reign of terror. Seek him in his lair and vanquish him. So this is telling you what you got to pull out before the beginning of the quest. 5 kobolds, 4 orcs, and 1 ogre. And then here is Gronk. This boss card, it's not a card that exists out physically. This is basically just like the monster stats being called out for the quest, and that is it. There are no quest notes. The heroes will go to chests, they'll defeat monsters. You have different loot decks, essentially, when you begin a quest. You will create a loot deck for drops that are dropped by the monsters when the heroes defeat them, and you've got a separate deck that will serve as what the heroes find if they open treasure chests during their adventure. So the loot is all randomized. There's no need to have specific loot called out in that scenario. Doom of the Necromancer, the dreaded Necromancer, Gulgatum. Storm the Barbarian versus Gulgatum, a matchup you never thought you'd see. Rolls across the countryside with his vicious undead horde. You have found his hidden lair and must stop him at all costs. What is the riddle of Plastic Boy? Next up is Karkal's Tomb. This might be a little bit more challenging than the last one. We might be seeing a slight increase in the challenge. The boss room here features 7 of these undead and Karkal himself, who has a bow that allows him ranged attacks. Karkal's Tomb is the most dangerous place in the world, but it hides many treasures. Find them or die trying. These new sections that we're seeing are spell lists and expendable lists. Squiz the Illusionist. This one actually does have a quest note right here on the map. The Rescue. Ogre kidnappers abducted Princess Layla and fled in the night. You tracked them to a dungeon and found the princess held within, but you now must escort her back out to safety. It's funny because if I look at the rule book, there's an errata, and the errata in the adventures booklet says that the rescue area A is the one with Princess Leia. The errata needed an errata. Uzumi's treasure. A fabled treasure hides in the crypt of the undead sorcerer Uzumi. Slay him and loot his hoard. Zark the Fast. The renowned bandit Zark the Fast stole an enormous diamond from Lord Antraz's vault. I'm only reading these because I wonder if some of them are references to other things that I'm not catching. Find him in his dungeon, but beware his lightning quickness. Umumba the Smart. Umumba is a mercenary renowned for his devious intelligence. Be wary of his cunning and find his treasure. Why? Hold on a second. I'm just going to complain again. Vulcan the White, the world's most powerful archmage. We're defending the weak and fighting the darkness as defenders of the light. Why are we just raiding random tombs and killing random mercenaries who are just trying to earn a living? We're defenders of the light. What did they do to the light? And why did suddenly our body, it was covered by multiple blue flames when he was speaking ancient and forgotten words? Did he betray us? Is Vulcan the White actually Vulcan the Dark this whole time? Varkesh the Conjurer is next, and then Legions of the Death Knight, which is our final quest. For this quest, you're going to need 23 skeletons, 4 ogres, 6 kobolds, 1 zombie, and 1 boss, Gazpathath. Gazpathath, the Death Knight, summons legions of undead to invade the world, seek him in his lair, and destroy him forever. Now that is a quest I can get behind. And one really long quest note here, talking about how the skeletons will just continue spawning. And so that, more or less, is Dungeon Venture. What do you think? Was this patron vote the correct vote? If you don't think so, you better join the Patreon and help me decide what game to unbox next. I don't know. I don't know if I could do another Dungeon Venture though. This one's something. This one's really neat to have if you are just a completionist and you've deemed dungeon crawlers to be the thing that you have to complete collection. This one's a bit of a stretch. Why did they stop at 11 missions? It's not like there's expansions. They didn't give you any sort of template to make your own. I guess you could infer how to do that. obviously. You can do whatever you want. It's cool to have a ton of combat dice. There's just not much else to say. So Brave Heroes, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, have a great rest of your day. Comment what you like down below. It really helps me out a lot. And consider joining the Patreon. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.